Hi, welcome to the Home Furnishings Educational Network. My guest this week is Liza Hausman, Vice President of Industry Marketing at Houzz. Liza, do you have the coolest house ever there? I mean, that is such a great view you have.
I wish I could say that that was so, Bill, but actually this is one of six backdrop photos that Houzz has made available to anyone who needs a nice backdrop so that you don't see their children and dogs and everybody else running behind them during their conference calls.
Wow, that's a very quick response to changing market conditions.
Yes, well, we've
Uh,
tried to do a number of things. Yes.
Yeah, let's jump right in and talk about that. Houzz is already a primary connector between consumers and professionals who can help them improve their homes. You've got a community of more than 2.5 million home remodeling and design professionals. What kind of impact is the coronavirus having on them?
Yeah, well, it is having a significant impact. Earlier this week, we released findings from our quarterly barometer report. That's a survey that we do every quarter of a group of architecture and design professionals, construction and remodeling professionals, and we check in with them, each quarter to see what's going on with business. We included a special section on coronavirus, obviously for this barometer. And we did find that, more than 4 in 5 businesses in the architectural and design services sector have been impacted by the pandemic. They're seeing things like, project delays, fewer new business inquiries, project cancellations. It's pretty serious. On the construction side, you're probably hearing this as well, and it affects designers as well. But there's a real variety of situations out there geographically in terms of whether construction is continuing or not continuing. So we see a lot of variation, but a lot of folks implementing new safety guidelines, temporarily closing offices or storefronts, deferring new hires. And it's really the first time since we started running this survey in 2015 that a greater proportion of firms reported quarter-over-quarter decreases in business activity than those reporting increases.
That's really significant. That's some very big changes there. So other than giving them really cool Zoom backgrounds, what other kinds of things can you do to help mitigate and kind of help them deal with some of those challenges?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. It's something we've sort of been all hands on deck on, for the last several weeks when things turn quite serious. But one of the biggest things is that we launched what we're calling the Resilience Initiative, and it's really kind of an umbrella for a lot of different things that we're doing. I mean, home remodeling and design businesses are really core to our community. They're facing unprecedented challenges, as we've seen, in the news and in these results. And so through this initiative, the goal is to give pros really actionable information and resources to strengthen their businesses now and for the long run, to stay connected. So, having that community support is really important as we're all, home alone. To help them stay connected to clients and teams and really tap into the power of this amazing community. And, that includes, articles on what's going on, with help and aid right now, how to tap into those resources, legal Q&A. We had a webinar yesterday on e-design, since obviously many more companies are incorporating e-design or e-consulting into their businesses right now. So it's really kind of a host of content and resources that we've made available.
How do people access that? I mean, I'm sure some of that resides on the website, but are there some kind of shortcuts you can offer that kind of help people access that?
Yep, I think the easiest thing to do today is go to blog.houzz.com, which is our blog, and we have, you'll see lots of those articles, an overview of the Resilience Initiative, and lots of other, content and resources. And we're about to launch, I think it should be up by Monday, a specific resources page just for COVID that you'll be able to find from the Pro homepage, so pro.houzz.com. We'll have a link off specifically to those resources. One of the other things that we're doing, speaking of Houzz Pros, we launched our kind of all-in-one solution for pros last week that incorporates both marketing and business management software. And one of the things that we're doing to try to help our loyal community of pros is we're giving that software for free to all of our legacy customers that we had prior to that launch, and also offering the software at as low as $49 a month to really try to help all pros with their businesses.
Can you share any details on some of the things that software will help them do?
Sure. So on the designer side, it's everything from premium marketing features. We have new ways to update your profile with an easy to produce video. A lot of people right now are trying to spend more time updating, obviously, their online presence. So it's a great way to kind of really make sure you're communicating what's different and special about your business. It includes lead management tools. So when you get new business inquiries, whether they're from Houzz or any other source, you can add them from anywhere and actually manage them through different stages so you know when to follow up, and it makes it much easier to stay on top of those and make sure you're closing all the new projects as you cast a wider net. And then lots of project management. So tools for building a product library from any of your sources, putting those into proposals, being able to send invoices, and again, stay on top of your business to ensure that you're operating it profitably.
Speaking of operating a business profitably, a lot of retail stores have had to close down, but designers have been finding some ways to adapt. Are you finding that people on the Houzz platform are adapting the way that they do business in the new environment?
Yeah, absolutely. Coming out of that same barometer survey, we're seeing about 50% are now offering video consultations and remote collaboration tools. Houzz Pro is one of the tools that allows you to do that. A third are sourcing more products online than they did before. And 30% have adopted online invoicing and payments. We're seeing for folks that are still working, maybe they're going to a new construction home to do an installation. They're taking video of that installation and sending it to the client because they can't do a live walkthrough. They're getting creative with the business model. So, maybe it's a paid consultation. We've seen kitchen and bath designers still offering paid consultations to keep projects moving forward, since there'll probably be a backlog once we get through this from both the manufacturing and construction standpoint. So they're trying to kind of keep the design side of it moving forward. And I think one of the things, you probably saw that the High Point Market is now canceled for the spring, which is so disappointing for everybody. So we're actually going to be hosting a virtual design market, April 24th through the 29th. We've got, virtual showroom walkthroughs with brands like ART and Moe's and Furmob. We're going to be doing trends discussions and Q&As with Forehands, Korean companies, Senate 6, Maria Yi, Jaipur, and a number of other brands. So really trying to, work with the designers to kind of make these adjustments and try to continue the design and sourcing process.
Right. It's a lot of, you guys have really turned on a dime, been very active very quickly.
Well, it's mission critical. I mean, this is serious for everybody, and we hear every day. It's not an arm's length relationship with our design community. We're on the phone. We're working with folks every day, and so you are feeling their pain, and so everybody is incredibly motivated to try to help mitigate what's going on right now.
Speaking of things that people are concerned about, it's important for companies to continue to remain in contact with their audience, whether that's retailers and their consumers or designers and their customers. But people have a lot of concerns about marketing in this environment, right? You need to be sensitive. What are your thoughts on how people should go about marketing their business today in this environment? Do you have any insight you can share?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there are a lot of other I've seen a lot of research out there looking at this specifically, trying to get a pulse on what's appropriate. And actually some of the articles that we've published are around, what to do with your newsletter, how to be sensitive during this time. You know, some of the biggest things that are best practices are really reaching out by email and letting your customers and, you know, prospective customers know that you care. Let them know how, if they can still work with you, you know, remind them that you're a small business and appreciate any support or referral opportunities that come their way. If you can offer help or tips or even just a beautiful inspirational image and something positive. The research that I've seen, there's a company called Ipsos that does an affluent study, and they did some research recently focused specifically on, you know, how do consumers feel about hearing from brands at this time? And the vast majority still want and expect to hear from brands. They're craving some normalcy, so keeping some communication going, and again, sharing something positive or just letting them know what's going on with your business, or that, you know, keeping it real is very important at this time. You know, being transparent, I'd say, is the number one. The second that I kind of mentioned earlier is this is a really good opportunity for everybody to update their online presence. We're home, we're in front of computers, right? This is the time to go and check out whether it's your Houzz profile, the rest of your social media, your website, and make sure that you're actually speaking to what's going on with your business. Are you open? You know, if you're offering remote consultations or design services right now, make sure that that's front and center and clear. And, you know, I think another one is both ask and offer discounts, right? So, you know, if you're in a position, this is potentially a good time to invest in marketing and make sure that you're building that pipeline. But you can definitely go and ask for discounts and ask companies what they can do for you at this time. And then on the flip side, right, when you're reaching out to customers or prospective customers, let them know what special things that you're offering at this time and why this might be a better time than ever to work with you.
Well, that's a lot of very, very, very specific kinds of things. So I think everybody, if you're watching this, run it back, listen again, get the notepad out, start, right? And there was a lot of very, really, really good actionable advice there. Thank you for that. Now, Houzz also has a trade program, right? You provide trade-only pricing for professionals. Suppliers are challenged also right now. And so how are you working with suppliers to keep that flow of product going with so many companies challenged? Have you had
No,
to make accommodations?
yeah, it's a great question. You know, I think the number one thing is that our buyers are really in frequent contact with vendors about the impact that the coronavirus is having on their warehouse operations and order fulfillment, so that we really have real-time information and there are no surprises. You know, we're working with vendors to ensure that inventory and lead times are up to date and accurate. So if those are lengthened, you know, we're making sure that we're updating that on their site, and all of the, you know, trade account managers that are working with designers right now are, you know, giving that information and being really proactive about it. We're definitely seeing that activity is still very high. So we're seeing a lot of designers still sourcing, right? More of them, as we saw in our survey, are sourcing online than ever before, because that's the situation that we're in. So we've really stepped up things to accommodate that. And we also launched an internal tool for vendors that enables them to more easily manage temporary lead time adjustments. So again, you know, during this time when they may likely have longer lead times, we've made it easier for them to just jump into this tool and keep those times really accurate on a real-time basis.
Are there some best practices on both sides? So are there some best practices that you would advise for your vendors in terms of how they interact with you? And then for designers who want to check on the, you know, the status of goods or something like that, are there some best practices or ideas that you could share?
Yeah, I think being proactive on both sides is probably the best thing. Certainly on the vendor side, you know, you really need to think about the long-term impact on your brand of being inaccurate or providing inaccurate lead times. And so you want to make sure that you're updating that information and working with your buyer on how to keep that information as up to date as possible, because, you know, as long as you're setting proper expectations with your customers, right, and designers are seeing that and we're meeting those expectations, then you know, everybody understands that it's a more difficult time and there are longer lead times, but you want to set that expectation appropriately. And then on the designer side, you know, certainly expect longer lead times. I think everybody's planning for that right now. But we have, again, a great trade account manager team that can provide regular updates. And if you ask them to update you proactively, they'll absolutely do that.
Yeah, I think sometimes people are reluctant to communicate information if they feel it's not positive, right? So if it's a delayed lead time or something, it's almost like I don't want to make that phone call, but it's probably so much better to at least be upfront, let people know, help them plan their business, and give that good accurate information, regardless of whether it's positive or negative.
Yep, you're 100% right. Right, being transparent right now is so much more important than trying to, you know, put up a face that isn't accurate.
Well, I think too, it's important for people to remember that this is a temporary situation and long-term relationships matter, and you want to continue those relationships and demonstrate, your viability and your reliability, right?
Yep, 100%. Yep, that's how we're approaching all of this.
So are you seeing any other shifts in your trade program business?
I think just busy. I think that's the biggest thing is that we're seeing, increased activity. Pros are sourcing online, and whether it's to set up their own offices or help their clients equip offices, outdoor spaces. We're still seeing a lot of activity, and of course, because people are home and they're trying to expand their living space into the outdoors. Often, we're seeing a lot of purchases there, kids spaces. We're seeing continued work on new construction projects, and so online sourcing has become more important than ever. And then obviously we've seen firms do temporary layoffs or holds, etc. And so many designers are wearing even more hats than they were before, right? And they're even more taxed in terms of their bandwidth. And so we're seeing a lot more reliance on our trade account management team to kind of act as an extension of a designer's sourcing team, and helping pull product options based on a designer's specifications, really helping designers get those projects complete and stay on top of lead times and client communication and execution.
So as I mentioned, this is a temporary situation. Eventually, we're going to start to see people, things reopen. People are going to start to have some return to normality. Based on what you're seeing, what do you think might be some of the product areas, the kinds of home projects that people are going to be focusing more as they start to come out of this? I think you alluded to some of that, but maybe you could expand a little on what you're seeing. And I mean, you have a real good view on both sides of that.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing the activity that's happening now when people are home, but that's actually a really great question. It's early, and we're actually fielding a survey that's asking our community exactly that. So I'll be able to share results of that with you soon. But we're actually very curious, I think, as everybody is, to say, hey, everyone's home, they're looking around. What is it that they're noticing that they most want to change? What are their priorities going to be once we're on the other side of this? We're certainly seeing, while people are home, they're making, small adjustments so that they can work from home, so that they can use other areas of the home as work or play spaces, use outdoor space, right? Give the kids more to do indoors and at home. But I think it's a really great question that we're also curious about, which is, what's going to be at the top of your list when we're able to get back to the new normal?
Yeah, it's funny. We discuss that a lot in our own office, right? I mean, obviously, home office is very big right now, and as you mentioned, kids. But then you wonder, when we get back to a normal, do people revert to their pre-behavior, or do they want to explode, right? Do we see an explosion in outdoor because everybody just feels cooped up? I'm very curious, just from a personal standpoint. I'm very curious myself to watch. I don't know about you, but I love that you do research. I'm kind of a research geek, and I'm always curious to find out how people will behave and what they
Yeah.
want to do.
Yeah, we hear anecdotal stories, about projects at least still moving forward in the design phase, where people are taking the budgets they're now not spending on a vacation, right? Because the vacation didn't happen, and so they're taking that and putting that into their home. So um, it's definitely going to be interesting to hear, what is it that people are now noticing, or may have wanted to do before, but are even prioritizing at a higher level than before.
I've heard a number of people say in general that they just expect the home to be more of a focal point. Do you expect that? I mean, whether that's, from your role at Houzz, or even from your own kind of personal experience and, your crystal ball, it seems, do you think home in general will be more important to consumers as we come out of this?
I think so. I mean, if I think back to, 2008 era, when people get a shock, they want comfort and they want safety and they want normalcy. And I think, back then we saw there was a lot of nesting happening, right? And people kind of doing a staycation. And so I think we're going to see the same thing here, which is, things are never going to go back to exactly how they were before, and certainly not in terms of consumer mindset. And so, when you have a shock, you're going to want to surround yourself by something that makes you feel good and comfortable. And so I do think we're gonna see people again refocus on their living space, and their family time, and what they can do there and how it makes them feel.
Well, great. You did mention that survey. Will some of that be published or shared publicly?
All of
Or
it. Yes, we
awesome.
always make our research public. And so we will absolutely, Bill, you'll be at the top of our list when that comes out, and make sure that you know.
Well, good. Thanks for taking the time with us today. We really appreciate it. I really like that cool background. I think I'm going to have to improve mine. So I may be on
I'll
Houzz
send you the
later.
link. Yeah.
Thanks so much. And my best to you and the entire Houzz family. Please stay safe and stay healthy.
And us to you too, Bill. Thank you so much. It's great talking to you, catching up.
Thank you.